TESS-India is creating the largest network of freely available high-quality teacher education resources in India.
Which angle is bigger? This, Paka.
Co-written by Indian and UK academics, the aim is to improve the education of hundreds of millions of children by creating active learning materials for use in the classroom.
Yes, keep on moving.
There is overwhelming evidence that when you get students or when you get children to engage in the classroom, they learn better. And we've seen that in Sub-Saharan Africa in several other projects where interactive learning has been the focus. We've seen that in most developed countries. That is why we're now looking at embedding this learning within the teacher development programs in India.
The materials of TESS-India refer to the research about active learning. Now, this research has started from the 1900s, and it's now a huge library of research we have about it. And it really shows that active learning is the effective way to learn.
TESS-India teams have visited schools across India, and they found the most common teaching style was to educate from the front of the class.
भूल नहीं सकते यानी जन्म हुआ यानी उसको हम प्राकृतिक संख्या मानेंगे तो वो 1 से प्रारंभ होगा और पूर्ण संख्या तब जब हमको अकल हो.
When you go into a classroom, very often the teachers are using the chalk and talk approach, which is they talk for a long time and they explain. They can explain really well, but actually we know that that is not the best way to learn.
भिन्न करके आपको याद करने में आसानी होगी.
So it's to change that approach to get more active involvement with the students, and so that they engaged with the learning, that it is their learning, and for the teacher to become perhaps more of a facilitator in that learning.
There are lots of conversations to be had, but what I'm hoping is at the end we'll have a lot more clarity.
The new TESS-India resources will help teachers with some of the most challenging parts of the curriculum in 4 key subject areas: maths, English, science and mother tongue. There'll be 15 teacher development units or TDUs for each subject at both elementary and secondary level, and these will be available in multiple formats, printed and online, and SD cards will make the material accessible via mobile phones.
The TESS-India materials will open up a whole different experience for children where they can feel excited and engaged in their learning, because we're encouraging teachers to be far more student-centric and to involve their students in the learning.
Each TDU will be packed with around 20 pages of tips, advice and ideas on how to teach more actively. And the idea is teachers can pick and choose what suits them best and use the materials creatively.
I want to highlight one very special aspect of our TDUs, and that aspect is of creating reflective and thinking teachers. If you just open any of our teacher development units, it actually goes into the teaching and learning process of a teacher, how a teacher learns. They will just think about it. How does it work? Maybe I can add something to it. Maybe I can delete something from it. Maybe I could customize it. When thinking teachers move into classrooms, they create their own resources, and they build on resources which are actually available.
The TDUs are now being customized for use in the 7 states covered by the project, and TESS-India's advisors are testing them in the classroom. Here a teacher is trying out an elementary science TDU to introduce the challenging concept of floating and sinking with a practical demonstration.
With the science, it's particularly important because some of the concepts are quite difficult and abstract. You can't come to an understanding of them without experiencing what it is you're actually talking about.
दोनों को पानी के अंदर डाल के हम लोग देखेंगे कि क्या तैर रहा है और क्या डूब रहा है. सबसे पहले कील को पानी के अंदर डाला. क्या हुआ?
In the lesson we saw today, he did a demonstration about floating and sinking and involved the children in trying to predict what would happen, and that was good. And the next step will be for him to let the children do the testing themselves next time.
The TDUs also show teachers how to take the next step.
Objects which you think will float, you will note down in the float circle.
Here we see another teacher actively involving the children in floating and sinking experiments of their own.
But it's not that. Please, can you wait? Sinking. Floating or not floating?
The practical, hands-on, interactive way of teaching stimulates children to think more, to try things out, and actually then understand better what floating and sinking is about.
Floating.
And in Bihar, here's an example of a mathematics teacher embracing active learning techniques, such as asking thoughtful questions, inspired by a TDU on the concept of angles in geometry.
कोण का मतलब क्या होता है? कौन बताएंगे? What is angle? कोण कभी देखे हैं? कहाँ देखे हैं कोण?
हमारे आसपास चारों तरफ कोण।
बताइए, आसपास के ही बारे में बताइए।
जैसे सर दीवार और छत और ये दीवार है, उन दोनों का बीच में जो एक पॉइंट है ना, वो हमारा कोण है 90 डिग्री।
90 डिग्री का बोल। तो
He's also set up group work for the students to discuss how to draw a series of angles he set out on the board.
Very often angle is seen as something static by the children, and they find it really difficult to work with or to even draw it. So the teacher today was trying to help the students make sense of angle in their whole world, and he used group work. He also asked them to turn around so they could communicate well with each other. The lesson today was, I think, a beautiful illustration of how the teacher was not talking too much. It was the children who were talking. There was one person drawing the angles normally, but all the others were so eager and so intentfully looking at how to do this. They also learned very much about it. And they also critiqued the person who was drawing to say, no, that's not how you do it, you should do it this way and that way. So I think by doing it in this group work, the students learned so much, not only for themselves, but also from each other, without the teacher's intervention, actually.
Today we are going to do some activities on sound.
The TDUs across the different subject areas are packed with tips for good teaching and a wide range of active learning ideas to get children involved, such as brainstorming at the beginning of the lesson.
Gungroos, okay, that's interesting. Gungru we can say.
And the shouting of children.
Children shouting in the class.
Using the human body to illustrate new concepts.
These all we are forming angles.
Studying outside the classroom.
Look at the roof and see which branch is making which angle.
The branch of this tree.
And feeding back after group work.
All right. So what about the orange one? What do you think? Radius. Orange one plays the radius of the circle. How about the blue one? Chord.
The basic thing I liked about this session was that everyone was able to express their ideas and opinions about a particular topic. They were able to express them freely.
The test materials will also be made available through an interactive website, through films about how the TDUs work in practice, and through teacher training in the States.
We are also working on leadership and management units, which is directed towards school principals and school leaders. And these modules really cover the best practices in school management. So in that sense, the TESS-India project is very holistic and is addressing not only the needs of teachers, but also school leaders.
These materials offer principals new ideas about ways to develop the educational culture of their school and support teachers in adopting more active learning techniques.
Two basic things are to be done by the principal. One is to look at the academics and the other is to look at the administrative part.
राज्य की अपनी सोच है कि शिक्षक ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा पढ़े, टीचर एजुकेटर उनसे ज़्यादा पढ़े, एससीईआरटी के लोग और ज़्यादा पढ़ें, और इसी आधार को मान के हम टेस्ट इंडिया का अपने राज्य में स्वागत करते हैं। और हमको विश्वास है कि इनके साथ मिलकर हमको न केवल अच्छे मटेरियल मिलेंगे, उस मटेरियल को क्लासरूम में कैसे हम पहुँचाएँगे, ये भी हमको एक पूरा पेडागोगी।
Children, the sun was this side, and where were your shadows from?
My hopes and dreams for the TESS-India project is that it reaches as many teachers and students as possible, so that there is more of interactive teaching and learning practices in classrooms across India. This way we would really come up to par and match up with the global educational standards.